This is the RedLine, and I am your host, Jimmy Red. Thanks for tuning in. We had a week of college football. Week 11 is done. Week 12, right on the horizon. It's coming up. So, last week we predicted a couple games. We're going to go ahead and recap those games for you guys real fast, tell you what I predicted and what the final scores came out to be. I was not very stellar this week, folks. I missed by quite a bit, just so everybody knows. All of my games were definitely way different than I thought, and there were games that were way closer than they should have been, and we got those, and those are upsets and close ones, so those are coming up as well. The games I predicted were the Clemson-Boston College game. I had that score being 41-34. I thought Boston College could really hang in there. They got a lot of good defense, a ranked team. They've been around tough. They've hung tough all year in the ACC. They're playing Clemson. I understand Clemson's young. They got a freshman quarterback. I thought they could do a little something with him, maybe shake him up a little bit. Were unable to do that. They were beat 27-7. They shut the offense down after the week before that playing Louisville and just absolutely destroying them. But they still were unable to win the game. Defense didn't do what they needed to do. Their offense couldn't get going, couldn't put any points on the board. So that one I missed by quite a bit. I had 41-34. It ended up being 27-7. TCU West Virginia, I had that being 30-42. It ended up being 47-10. Man, I thought TCU was going to find a way to play this game good here. They played good against Ohio State in the first half. Gary Patterson always finds a way to get his guys going. Gary Peterson always finds a way to get his guys going. And I thought he was going to get them rolling, but he was unable to do that. They got steamrolled by TCU. Will Grier helped his chances out for winning the Heisman Trophy. I was ecstatic about that because that's still, as everyone knows, that was my preseason pick. So I'm loving this right now. He's still right there. Another one was Ohio State, Michigan State. Michigan State was ranked high at the start of the year. They came in at like a 10 or an 11 seed to enter preseason polls. They looked pretty good throughout the start of it. All of a sudden, they've started their downward slide like they do late in most seasons. The only person that really didn't do that for them was when they had Connor Cook. Connor Cook still started his struggles towards the end of the year, but not as bad as they've had the last few years. They were playing Ohio State. I said 24-28. Missed that one by a mile. That was 26-6. Missed that by a lot. They covered that one for sure. Ohio State put a good game on. Dwayne Haskins came out there and played good. J.K. Dobbins is finding his way. Paris Campbell. Those guys are starting to turn into a team, so they're going to force to be reckoned with. Mississippi State, Alabama. Nick Fitzgerald couldn't play the first game of the year. He was a huge candidate to win the Heisman. It's not been very good so far this year, but Alabama came in there 45-28 is what I said. It ended up being 24-0. It's another shutout against another SEC school. It's 2 weeks in a row they did a shutout. 29-0 against LSU last week and 24-0 this week against Mississippi State. That speaks wonders for their defense, and that should put a lot of people on wonder what's going to happen when they play against Alabama. But the biggest thing to take away that game was Tua Tagovailoa went down with a leg injury, and that is big. We're going to talk about the Heisman stuff here at the end of the episode, so make sure you tune in and hear a little bit more. But Tua went out of that game. He rode the bike for the last 20 minutes of that game because of an injury, and obviously Jalen Hurts is not able to play because he had surgery, so they had to bring in their third-string quarterback, and he doesn't look the same at all, which is why they probably only put up 24 points. Tua, I'm kind of curious on what's going to happen with him. It's another injury to that leg again. I don't know if he's going to finish this year out for Alabama. And with Jalen Hurts getting that surgery, that does not look good for the Tide. So the biggest thing for the Tide is they have a small game this week. They need to play Tua for maybe a quarter. Or if not, play that young third-string quarterback because it's an easy game. Let Tua get rested up because the following week, you guys got a big matchup against Auburn. And then going right after that, if you win that matchup, you jump in to play the SEC championship game. So make sure you get you guys well rested up there. Another one was Wisconsin, Penn State. I thought Wisconsin was a better team to start this year, but Alex Hornibrook does not look like the same quarterback he was to end last season. He looks terrible. He does not look like the same one. Neither does the quarterback for Penn State and Trace McSorley. He doesn't look the same either. They obviously lost Saquon Barkley last year, but they picked up Miles Sanders, who looks just as good. Not quite as strong, big, and fast, but he still looks as good in that offense. I thought they would win that game, Penn State, 32-24. And the reason I thought it was going to be a close one is because I thought it was going to be a great matchup of two running backs. You had Jonathan Taylor and you had Miles Sanders. You had two great running backs going head-to-head. Quarterbacks, not so much, but I thought the running was going to be phenomenal in that game. And it didn't live up to what it was supposed to because the final score was 22-10. Not a whole lot of offense there, a lot of defense, not too much offense. Pretty sloppy game, actually, to be honest with you. Another one was Texas Tech, and that was the one I told you had to keep an eye on. Because Texas always struggles with Texas Tech. They have in years past. And they did again this year as well. I said it was going to be 35-38, and they were going to win it at the last second on a field goal. Well, they didn't win it on a field goal. They won it on a touchdown. That's something that happened a couple years ago when Texas Tech scored one with Michael Crabtree to defeat Texas when Colt McCoy was there. I think it was 2008 was the year, I believe, actually, when they did that. It might have been 12, but it was one of those years, 8, 12. I think it was 12 now that I'm thinking about it. So I think 2012 is when that play happened, which was crazy. And Texas was beating that game. Well, Texas repaid the favor this game when they punched one in there on a catch to win the game 41-34. So I was awesome to see that. I was stoked being a Texas fan seeing that win. I told you that was a game you needed to watch for sure because I knew Texas struggled with Texas Tech. They got tough matchups coming up again this week as well against Iowa State. We're going to break that game down for you guys today real quick, give you a little prediction on that one. But before we do that, we're going to jump into what we think about the college playoff rankings here. I think there's a couple teams that need to jump inside those rankings. Obviously, I think Northwestern needs to jump inside the top 25. They've played a lot of teams tough this year, and they have been very good. They got the upset this year. They got the win last week, and they beat Purdue to start the year off. So I think they need to be inside the top 25 if you ask me if I'm a committee guy. But with that being said, we're going to go into the teams that should and should not be in the playoffs. I still have the exact same order that I had last week. I have West Virginia in at 6. I think they can beat Oklahoma. I understand Oklahoma's got that high-powered offense with Kyler Murray, but I think Will Grier can find a way to do it because Kyler Murray and them were tested by Oklahoma State this week. So I think that's one that I put them still in at 6. Number 5, I'm going to put in Georgia until Georgia gets beat in the SEC Championship. They've already punched their ticket to the Mercedes-Benz Dome there, stadium in Atlanta, so you got to put them in at 5 until they lose. Then Michigan in at 4. They got an awesome matchup coming up here in a couple of weeks too. Then you got Notre Dame at 3. They got a tough matchup this week, so make sure you pay attention to that game. We're going to break it down. Then you got Clemson in at 2 and Bama still in at 1. I understand 2 is hurt, as I mentioned, but I still have them in at 1 for right now until I see what they look like in the SEC Championship game against Georgia. Now, we're going to start breaking down these games from this week. Actually, I lied to you. There were some games that were close or upsets this week that a lot of people kind of looked at and were like, eh. And that one of them to me was the North Carolina State-Wake Forest game. Ryan Finley. I did not see Ryan Finley getting beat by Wake Forest whatsoever, especially on senior night. And he did. And that was disappointing. So NC State falls. They were number 22 in the country at the time. They fell 23-27 to Wake Forest. Wake Forest has looked good, but they were defeated by Boston College earlier this year. I thought NC State could find a way to pull that one off, but they were unable to. A close one was the Oklahoma State game. That was what I just mentioned. Oklahoma State already beat the number 6 team in the country at one time, being Texas. This time they took on the number 6 team in the country, Oklahoma, and almost beat them. Kyler Murray had a good game. It was just a typical Big 12 shootout game, or it was who can put the points on the board. And that's what it was. It ended up being 48-47. Oklahoma pulled that out. And then an SEC matchup was Tennessee and Kentucky. Tennessee at home. Tennessee struggled last week when they got beat by Georgia. Or was that 2 weeks ago? When they got beat by Georgia 2 weeks ago, And then they come in and face another tough opponent in Tennessee who's kind of underranked this year. They've had big games when they've needed to step up, and they stepped up yet again and were able to stop Benny Snell. And it was a good game for them. It was phenomenal. Tennessee ended up pulling that one off in an upset. They defeated them 24-7. And then, as I mentioned, Northwestern, they need to be in for sure into the top 25. They just defeated Iowa, who's 21st in the country, 14-10. They've been in tough games all year. I think Northwestern's in the top 25 for sure. But we're going to go back to predicting some games for this week. There's going to be some good stuff coming up this week. Make sure you guys tune into these. These are the best games of the week in my mind. But we got to be ready for them. Because one of them has a huge playoff chance for one team and even another team. Because this could jump a team hugely in the rankings or this could drop a team way out. And that's the Syracuse-Notre Dame game. I think that Eric Dungy and his offense have been putting points on the board like it's clockwork the last few weeks. They've looked very, very good. They have averaged 44 points a game. That's phenomenal. And they're just putting them up and racking them up. But they've yet to see a defense like Notre Dame. Notre Dame has a defense that not a whole lot of people put points up again. They're only allowing teams to score 19 points a game, average. So they're going to have their hands full putting up 44 points against that. Plus, Ian Book has turned into a new quarterback, and that team has really changed since Ian Book has stepped in at quarterback. When they took out Brian Wimbish and they put in Ian Book, that team changed on the offensive side of the ball. And I'm excited to see how they play against Syracuse, because Syracuse allows teams to score a lot of points, and it's usually a shootout with them. And that wide receiver that they have there in Notre Dame with Boykin, Miles Boykin, he's a senior, I understand, and he's got something he wants to state. He wants to state that they can beat these teams and keep rolling and get into the playoffs as a senior. So I think this Notre Dame team's coming in there with something to say, but I think that you got to worry about Syracuse. Syracuse they're not as bad as a lot of people are making them out to be. You think Syracuse, most of the time you think basketball, not really football. And I think this comes to be a very, very close matchup because that's how most Syracuse games are. Notre Dame has played that way most of the year too. And I think this is one time where Notre Dame gives up a lot of points because of that offense against Syracuse. And I'm going to say that score is going to be 38-35. Notre Dame squeaks it out. Very close game. 38-35. Syracuse gets beat. And I think Notre Dame looks at it and says, whew, it's one we escaped, boys. Another one coming up this week is the Arizona-Washington State game. And a lot of people look at that and they say, well, Washington State's 8th in the nation. They've only lost one game. They're playing Arizona. Arizona's 5-5. That doesn't mean anything. Arizona's a good team. They got Kevin Sumlin as a coach. Arizona was ranked at one point this year, and they were a team that a lot of people had underneath the radar, weren't really looking at them. So you can't really mark them out. They have Khalil Tate as a quarterback. He was been injured a little bit this year. He wasn't real healthy last week when they played. But he's got to be healthy for this game here because Washington State right now has it going on. They look phenomenal. Their quarterback, Gander Manshaw, is incredible. Gander Minshaw is just there. He's ready to go, and they're just putting points up like it's out of craziness. He was supposed to transfer and go to Alabama, if that tells you how good this kid is. This kid was supposed to leave and go to Alabama and play for Nick Saban. And instead, he decided to stay in Washington and play football for Washington State. And that's a big compliment to that coach there, Mike Leach, keeping him there. So huge shout out to him for keeping him there. But I got that one being a game that could be an upset, but I don't see it happening. The spread in that game is 9.5. I got it marked a little bit more than that. I got it marked as, no I don't. I got it marked as 7. I got it 28-35. So Washington State pulls it out by 7, a touchdown. But I still think it's a good game. Another game I got on here is the Duke-Clemson game. And everybody says, Duke and Clemson? No, there's no way. Yeah, there is a way, folks. Yeah, I know it sounds nuts, but there could be a chance. I don't see them pulling the upset off, but there is a chance this turns out to be a good game. And you ask yourself, why? Why? Well, Duke started the season off 4-0, then lost to Virginia Tech, and then won against Georgia Tech. They were 5-1 at one point to start this season off. Are they the same team as Clemson? No, they're nowhere near close to that. Trevor Lawrence has found his offense and got it back. Travis Etienne is running the football like a phenom right now. Should be in the running and talking for the Heisman, probably in the top 5. Won't make it to New York for the finals, but should at least be in the talk for the top 5 for sure. They got T. Higgins, who's catching the football like a machine, and they still got Hunter Renfrow there as well. So they got 2 wide receivers that can catch the football. You got an awesome running back in Travis Etienne, and your quarterback is starting to turn it on late. Plus, you got Dabo Swinney. I think Clemson finds a way to pull it off, but don't overlook Duke. If Duke comes in there prepared, ready to go, they can play football. They've proved it. They started the season off 5-1 on the year, so don't overlook this game here, folks. I know the spread is huge. It's a huge spread. It's a 28-point spread. I don't have them covering the spread at all because I got Clemson winning that one 43-20, so they only win by 23. I don't have them covering the spread. So if you're going against the spread, take Duke. I don't think Duke has a shot to win this game, and if they do find a way to win it, it'd be the upset of the century. Just make sure that you have money on Duke because I don't think that spread gets covered. I think Duke only loses by like 21 to 25. So put your money on Duke if you're betting in Vegas. Final score 43-20, Clemson over Duke. Another one I have is the Oklahoma State playing at home against the West Virginia Mountaineers. Will Grier, baby, he's back. That's right. But he's going against Oklahoma State. And let me tell you, Oklahoma State, they ain't no joke this year, folks. As I mentioned already, they knocked off the number 6 seed once in Texas. And they almost knocked off the number 6 seed again last week in Oklahoma. So they're not bad. Their quarterback, Taylor Cornelius, he's turned it on the last few weeks. He looks like a quarterback that stepped in, ready to go, learning from Mason Rudolph. He's a senior, only getting to start 1 year, but he stepped in there looking good. He stepped over, looking sweet. So they look very good, but Will Grier, I think, has got too much power. I think they travel there. I know they're on the road against the Cowboys. Cowboys had a tough game last week against Oklahoma. I think that's what's going to hurt them this week against West Virginia. The spread on this game is 5. I think that's right at it. I honestly believe. I put my numbers on paper before I looked at the spread. I got it at 5. So that's right at it. I think Will Grier puts some numbers up, keeps his name in the Heisman, pulls off a big win, and he does it better than Kyler Murray does it, and he defeats him unlike Sam Ehlinger did. And I think they win that game 29-24. Give me West Virginia in that one right at 5. Will Grier finds a way to pull it out. That helps his chances in the Heisman for sure, considering Kyler Murray and Sam Ehlinger both struggled. So I think that's going to look fantastic for him when it comes time for Heisman. The other game I got is the Iowa State game. Man, oh man. Iowa State, Texas. Big 12 matchup. You got Sam Ehlinger, and then you got on the other side of the ball the quarterback, who's a freshman from Gilbert, Arizona, Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy's only a freshman, folks. And he's got his team inside the top 22 in Iowa State, a school you think for wrestling. They've had some big wins this year. They've looked good. They've came in and they've put some hurts on some schools that they shouldn't have beat. When they came in and they beat schools like, let's see here, who did they beat a couple weeks ago? They beat West Virginia. That's who they beat. They upset West Virginia. When they pulled that upset against West Virginia and then they beat Texas Tech, that was completely unthought of. And that hurt West Virginia's chances of being in the Big 12 straight-up champions. No problem. Well, they're going up against Texas right now, and they're starting to find a way to turn it on because they got that transfer there in Ingram, who they got. He transferred from Cal. No, not Ingram. Ingram's not their transfer. Ingram's their freshman. They got a transfer who's another running back, but Keontae Ingram, the freshman, he's starting to find a way to run the football very, very well for Texas. But they got little Jordan Humphrey, who, man, let me tell you about some Jordan Humphrey. That kid's going to make it to the draft. He ain't so little. And the reason he got his name is because his brother liked Michael Jordan. And they said, call him Little Jordan. So they called him Little Jordan because of that. And Sam Ehlinger has found a way to turn everything around and make himself into a better player as well. I think Texas is going to play a very, very phenomenal game here. After a struggle against Texas Tech, I think they're going to have their hands full. But I think they find a way to squeak this one out. I got Sam Ehlinger being the guy who makes the difference in it with his time behind center, being a guy who's had the time, been able to develop, been in close games. I don't think Brock Purdy can pull that out. I got Texas winning that game 36-30. So, with that being said, we're going to jump right into the Heisman real fast. And we're going to tell you guys a couple things about that. The Heisman with Tua. Tua was just of the start of last week at 1,000, a minus 1,000. Basically a lot to win the Heisman Trophy. That number has dropped a lot. He's down to a minus 400 to win the Heisman now, which for a guy like me, I love because that gives chances to Kyler Murray, who struggled last week, and Will Grier, who looks phenomenal, starting to turn it on, to come back and win that Heisman against Tua Tagovailoa. I don't think Tua's terrible, but I don't think he's the Heisman Trophy winner this year. He's got so much talent on that team, it goes to the best player, not the best team. And I think Will Grier's been the better player. He's got less talent, and he's doing more with it. Will Grier should win the Heisman Trophy. I love seeing that the numbers drop for Tua Tagovailoa, so make sure you find out who wins the Heisman. See what Tua does, if he even plays this week, when they play that game that I don't even know who they're playing. Somebody that's junk. But make sure you see if Tua plays that game. But folks, you have to. I'm telling you. I know this is week 12 right here, and I'm going to break them games down right there that I just told you about. But you have to come back the following week because it's week 13. And let me tell you, I don't think I'm going to leave my house on Saturday. I might just go ahead and order everything in. I might just prep for it at the house because the football games that are coming up in week 13, I don't even know what to say. They're going to be phenomenal, folks. Listen to what's coming up. You got Washington with Jake Browning going against Washington State. Yes, please. I'll watch that one. Auburn and Bama in the Iron Bowl. Yes, please. I'll watch that one because you never know what's going to happen there. South Carolina and Clemson. Yes, please, because Jake Bentley's still at quarterback and he knows how to make stuff happen for South Carolina, and they could find a way to upset Clemson, so I'll watch that one. LSU, Texas A&M. They've been in close games all year, Texas A&M has. Unable to pull a few of those off. They're playing against LSU. Might be able to do it here and shake it up a little more with Jimbo Fisher. Yes, please, I'll watch that one. Notre Dame, USC. Just the history in that one I want to watch. I want to see what Notre Dame does. JT Davis is not that good of a quarterback for USC. They're probably going to fire their head coach, USC is. So, not real stoked about that game. But it's something I would watch it if it's on TV. The two that I am the most pumped about, though. Oklahoma, number 6. West Virginia, number 9. Oh, my. Pumped, baby. Kyler Murray, Will Grier. Big 12 matchup. You know what Big 12 is. No defense. It's going to be straight offense. What quarterback's better? We're going to find out in this game right here. I am pumped. I will definitely be watching that game. And the one that I'm most stoked about is the Redemption Tour, baby. And that's the one where Michigan is trying to hand back all the defeats they were handed throughout the last couple years. And Michigan is heading to go play them Ohio State Buckeyes. And I'm stoked. I want to see that game. Obviously, I think that's where game day is going to be. That's where game day's got to be. That's the biggest one there is. If I'm game day, I'm going to that one. And I think Michigan finds a way to pull that one off. But make sure you come back and see who I got here. See what the scores are. That's going to be... I'm so pumped, man. I don't know if you can tell, but I am pumped for Week 13 of college football. I don't even know what to say. Make sure you tune back in here and find out, though, because I know I'm excited. Hopefully, you're just as excited as I am, because when Week 13 rolls around, I'm going to teach you guys everything you need to know about those games that are coming up. So make sure you tune in next week right here on The Red Line.